Welcome to this episode of Mainline Connect. I'm Jennifer Lynn Robinson, and my guest today is Rob Graff, Marketing Director for Spoonful Magazine. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So we like to start out the show with a networking topic. So instead of me just kind of giving tips like I usually do, I thought it might be fun, and I know we'll get more into your career and your career path, but at the outset, we know you wear a few hats, you do a few different things, and we'll discuss more of that. And I'm curious, because I know, we both attend a lot of networking events. And some people struggle with when they go to networking events, how they're going to not only introduce themselves, but how they're going to present their elevator pitch or 30-second pitch if they have more than one job or they do more than one thing, and it just gets very complicated. So I thought that might be a good question for you to address and maybe help our viewers with some networking tips on how you manage that for yourself.
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, I started trying to do everything and saying, I do this and I do that, or I'd get asked, what do you do? And I'd say, what don't I do? Which is great to kind of say, and you get a laugh out of it, but at the same time, it dilutes who you are and what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
The more my business started to grow, or one side grew and the other side shrank, I would focus more on just one thing. And if the topic came up or my story came up, I would tell them what I do and why I got into what I do. But selling yourself as numerous things, you're a jack of all trades and master of none, and that doesn't remind anybody that you exist anymore.
Absolutely, and I definitely agree with you on that. And when I have clients and I do consulting, to help people with things like that, that's exactly what I tell them. And I think, for me, I try to tell people to focus on one kind of career path per event. Yeah. And I think it should be targeted to the audience, for the most part. You feel like that? Or?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, you shouldn't just be going to any networking event for any reason at all, because you're wasting your time and wasting, if you calculate how much time you have and how much money you're going to be making, you're losing money by going to events that don't work.
Right.
So focusing on what the event is, who the people are at the event, making sure they're the right people, and then how that fits into what you're trying to sell or who you're trying to be at that event.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think you're right. I think, when you hear these pitches from people that say, I do this, and then I do this, and then I do this other thing, you don't remember them. They're not memorable. They haven't made that good first impression, even if they're extremely competent and good at what they do, because you come away with it not remembering what it is they do,
right,
basically.
Exactly.
So I thought that was a good question for you, because I know that that's something that you probably also encounter going to your networking events.
Yeah, all the time.
So yeah, for all of you watching, if you do have more than one thing that you do, whether it's two jobs or two different kind of career paths that you're pursuing, or maybe you're doing a new entrepreneur startup on the side while you're still working full time, really think about how that's going to play at your networking events and focus on one thing that's targeted to the audience of the event that you attend. I think that's the best thing we can tell people.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
Sounds good.
So, I've known you for a few years, and I think when I first met you, you were still practicing law, but you were moving into coaching. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I think I was doing health coaching at that point.
Okay.
I want to say.
So I guess my first question, and I know most of our viewers probably know this, but I'm also a recovering lawyer. So I'm curious, at the point that I met you, why did you feel it was time to kind of move more away from the law practice and into something else?
I felt burnout.
Okay.
I guess that's the best way to describe it. Doing civil litigation, I didn't realize the grind that it was going and the emotional toll that it would take on me. And I always tried to stay uninvolved, but getting, and you'll understand this, getting responses to discovery where we don't understand the meaning of the word household.
Right.
I'll remember that. That just said, I'm done. I can't take that anymore. So I thought, what can I do with my life that will make me happy and will make me feel fulfilled every day, enjoying going to work? So I would say, I don't think I was burnt out, because I still practice law. And if I was, I would say if I was burnt out, I would step away from it completely. But I just had enough of what I was doing and was looking for the next challenge and the next adventure that I could take.
And at the time you were a district attorney, right?
No, I was doing that. I was doing civil litigation.
Civil litigation, okay.
Mainly corporate law at an employment and business law firm.
Before that, you had been a DA?
Before that, I was a DA for 5 years. Yeah.
Okay, because that's pretty intense work.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure the corporate law was pretty intense too, but...
It was a different type of intense.
Different type of intense, okay. So you just decided, I need a change, and it was time. And so, I guess, as we know, you're still practicing law on some level. So why is it important for you to also kind of still have that in the background? Is it something that you want to definitely continue with sort of in the foreseeable future for your career, even though you're doing some other things that we'll talk about? Or is it something that you see yourself at some point giving up altogether?
I keep saying I want to give it up, and it keeps
Right.
drawing me back in.
Right.
So something about it wants me to keep doing it. I've pared my practice down to a very limited amount of criminal work, unemployment compensation work, where I get to go into court.
Right.
I get to really interact with people and be done with it, and it's not the paperwork, and there's not the amount of paperwork that a lot of other law practices have, where you're just drowning in it.
Yeah.
So for what I do, it's a rush. It's one of these rushes that I get, being able to walk into a courtroom, put on a suit still, and kind of have a different persona.
Yeah, I totally get it, because I mean that was the part I really liked about law too. And my history, I had medical problems, and I wasn't able to do that anymore. But I think for me, if I were going to go back in any capacity, it would be the same thing. I really just enjoyed the courtroom work. All that other stuff, I could leave that in a second. All the discovery that you're talking about, the annoying, the client and opposing counsel and all the hassle of it, but the going to court and kind of being in front of people and doing your thing and just leaving.
Exactly.
I can really see where I could still, every once in a while people say, well, do you miss it? And I'll say, I miss giving like a good closing argument. You know what I mean? So, I mean, the fact that you can do that once in a while still, I'm sure is fun.
It is fun, yeah.
Yeah.
And as long as it stays fun, then I'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
Because why not? It's not costing me anything.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I've talked to you about that I love is that you've actually created your own hashtag, reinventing Rob, which I love. And as I said in my questions when I gave them to you, I'm hoping at some point this will turn into maybe more of a blog or a book, because I think it's something a lot of people can relate to, myself included, about kind of finding your career path and, what's the next challenge and being passionate about what you do. So tell us a little bit about your journey, because I know we talked a little bit about going from law to going to coaching. And obviously I introduced you as the director of marketing, or the marketing director for Spoonful Magazine. And you're also working at a running store, correct?
That's correct.
So tell us about that path and this journey.
Well, reinventing Rob, I listen to a lot of music. And so I was listening to a song, and a lyric was, I reinvented myself, I changed with time. And I was like, all right, that kind of makes sense. I'm going to throw that up when I'm leaving my law practice. And I never did. And so in April, I had been running my business, and through some of the training that I had gone through, I realized it wasn't going to work. Let's put it that way. I had done well enough, but the amount of time I was putting in, I wasn't getting the return on investment. I had spoken with a family member about possibly working with him, and he said it wasn't going to work. So in April, I said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I was going to give it till June, and at that point, I just knew it was time. And it felt sad the first night. It was a Thursday night. And then I woke up the next morning and felt great. And I said, all right, I've had all these, my Twitter and everything was Rob Graff Esquire. And I was like, all right, let's just hit the reset button. What if I was starting again? What would I say? What would I do? So I didn't see myself as a recovering attorney because I kept practicing law.
Sure.
So I saw somebody write one time that they were a reforming attorney. And I said, okay, that's closer to what I am. So let's just reinvent myself. What if I never went to law school? What would I be doing? Well, I guess I'd still be practicing law. But so I said, what do I like? I like running. I've been running since 1996.
Oh,
when
wow.
I started on the cross country team because I was done with soccer.
Okay.
So why don't I look at places that I enjoy doing and find a passion for what I'm doing? So I applied and fortunately got a job, and I found I loved retail.
Yeah.
And it's kind of amazing that I'd never worked retail. I'd worked at Olive Garden. I had worked at summer camps. Obviously my law practice, but I'd never done retail in my life. And I remember being outside, at first being scared, because I was outside of a local big box store and I saw the employees and they looked miserable. And I was like, I can't work there, so I need to find something special that I like to do. Yeah. And that's kind of what led me to the running store. I was also certified as a personal trainer for a time, so I applied at some places to actually work as a trainer at that point, at some points too. And that just didn't feel like it was me at that point.
Okay.
And then with Spoonful, as I think I had mentioned briefly, I met with the editor-in-chief, CEO, the driving force behind Spoonful Magazine, and we got talking, and you know, she asked me to submit a proposal and see if it would work for me and work for her, really, even more so, and it did, and it's great.
Yeah.
I fell into what I wanted to do because I love marketing and I love being around people, and that's kind of what Spoonful's about.
Right.
It is about the social aspect of the magazine is about, it's a food magazine, and it's the art of entertaining and having gatherings, and that's really what it is for me. My memories of food are about spending time with family.
Right.
And
and
it might
friends.
not
Yeah.
and it might not be the best
Yeah.
food, but it's still, that's what it's about. So just food's just a vehicle to have an experience with people. And that's where the magazine is, and that's how I connect with it. And so it just kind of all fit together.
Yeah, and I think even in your retail job, it really is about connecting with people and the experience, right?
Because we work with people and make sure that they're in the right shoes and they understand why they're in the right shoes.
Yeah.
And I want them to be satisfied, and we do. This book that I'm reading right now actually mentioned something about a hot dog on a stick. And if you drop the hot dog on a stick, is it about the owner making money, or is it about the customer getting a new hot dog because they just dropped it? And the story is about really making sure that people are right in their shoes. So we asked them to try them out. We asked them to make sure that they can return them as long as they haven't run like 100 miles and said, now these shoes don't work. But it's about making sure people are happy and making sure that things just work for everyone. And that's, deep down, that's what I want to do. I want to help people.
Right.
I want to make sure that everything works for them.
And it seems like in everything that we've been talking about, the law, your coaching, and then everything you're doing now with the running store and the magazine, it is all about helping people.
It is.
And it's not only is it making you happy, it's also encompassing probably your best skills, right? Which is great.
I like to think so.
Yeah. So I want to get more about talk more about the running and the health a little bit, because I know from your background that you're certified as a personal trainer. And I always see your posts about running, and I'm always envious of what you're able to do, and I hope I can get to that level at some point. But it seems like fitness and running is a really big part of your life. And I guess my question is it about the fitness? Is there sort of a balanced therapeutic aspect of it to it, or is it both? Like, what does it mean to you?
Well, it started out, as I said, I didn't want to play soccer anymore.
Right.
And so when I got to high school, and my history teacher, my coach, who was probably the most influential person, if I could say one person influenced me the most, it was probably him. So spending a lot of time with the team. I look at where I went to college. One of the tour guide I went to Penn. My tour guide at Penn was a senior on the cross country team when I was a freshman. I think there's a weird kind of connection right there. The fact that all of it has kind of revolved around that, and I kind of space out, and some of my crazy ideas come to me. I used to listen to a lot of music, a lot of DMX, because that would I thought
it's good running music.
being angry would get me going. I listen to a lot of books on tape now, a lot of self-help books when I'm running, and I just it really allows me to focus on them, and I don't think of anything. I just listen to the books, and so I've gone through, I'd say maybe 15 books now, because I'm going for long runs where I can actually get through these books, and it's really expanded my understanding of myself and understanding of the world around me just by listening to these books. One day I listened to Who Moved My Cheese,
right?
Because it was an hour and 17 minutes, and I was going for an hour and 20-minute run. So there we go. I listened to an entire book while I was running, and so yes, it's about being healthy, because I graduated law school. Lean pockets are not lean when you eat like 5 of them.
Nothing is.
No.
Yeah.
So, should I be able to say that? Probably not. Lean pockets are great.
They're tasty.
Yeah, they are tasty. But I graduated law school and got married and was 225 pounds. And I graduated high school at 165.
Okay.
So one day I was out at dinner and I said, boy, I'm just fat. I just feel uncomfortable in my skin. And I dieted and lost about 50 pounds in 2 months. So now it's kind of also a little obsessive with me being, I need to keep the weight off.
Right.
But I don't think it's been 7 years since I've lost the weight. So I don't think I'm going to put it back on. But for me, that's how I find joy in what I'm doing, because I know I can be healthier, and I know that I have, quote unquote, the fat gene to put the weight back on if I wanted to.
I understand. Yeah.
So
that's great. I mean, because you found something you like that's keeping you healthy, and it seems like you're also getting a lot of great, self-help kind of benefits from it, and learning and reading all these books while you're running. It seems to have multiple benefits for you.
And the challenge that comes through it, my wife started, I got her something for her wrist that allows her to track how far she runs. And she started running maybe 25 minutes and saying, this is tough. And then yesterday she ran 5 miles. So
wow. And how long has that taken her? I'm just curious.
Let's see, when did she get the shoes? I'd say since August.
Is it about the shoes? Is that what I'm missing? Because I'm still at the point where I'm trying to run a minute, walk a minute, run 30 seconds, walk 30 seconds. And that part is getting easier, but the idea of going from that to running 25 minutes or 5 miles, I'm so impressed just hearing this.
Number one, it's about, cardiovascular stuff's huge, but
Yeah.
it is about the shoes, because that's where you're connected to the ground. So if you're not wearing the right fitting shoes, then it's going to mess up your knees, it's going to mess up your hips and your back and all these other issues that are going to come from
Well, as
that.
we talked before this, I'm going to come in and get some shoes, and we'll see what difference they make. But I'm glad to hear that somebody who's a non-runner can make that kind of leap, because that's definitely inspirational for me to hear.
It's definitely doable. Everybody can do it.
Good. So speaking of your spouse, I'm curious, since you have kind of been changing your path the last couple years, how has she been? Has she been a support? Has it been a little frustrating for her? Has it been both? Tell me a little bit about that.
It's been very frustrating for her. She's been very supportive.
Okay.
It's been great how supportive she's been, because being a lawyer is a lucrative profession.
Sure.
And so allowing me to quit and say, I want to do something else is scary. We have a son. He was 2 at this point, so it's really making sure that everything would work out all right, and it doesn't always work out all right.
Right.
So when I decided in April to say I'm done, I want to actually get a job. I want to have a W-2. I like the idea of 401ks. She was excited about that, because we like that stability. And while I like finding new adventures and finding different things to do, and you can find that within the confines of what you're doing and still be happy, but we need that structure. So she was very happy when I'm like, I want to get a job, and I want to have a salary that pays me wages.
A regular income coming in every 2 weeks, right?
Exactly. So she's relieved that I think I've gotten away from my midlife crisis at that point, and now I want to find a real job and move forward.
Yeah, but you're also doing Spoonful, which is great.
I am, yeah. So that's really, the exciting part about that is that it's going to take off, and it's going to be great, and that is going to be my full-time job. I see it as.
Yeah.
So it's about this transition while it's building.
So the flexibility aspect, and I know we've talked about, you kind of went back to a full-time job, a little less than full-time hours, but more of a structure. Yeah. So, initially when you left law, I know you said you were a little burned out. Was part of that decision having more flexibility, and now going back to sort of a more structured job? Are you appreciating the stability more? Do you kind of long for the days where you had like 2 hours to sit at Starbucks and kind of work on your thoughts? Or tell me about that.
Yeah, sure. Of course I miss sitting at Starbucks.
Yeah.
But I've been able to work out my schedule where one of the biggest things is I've been able to spend a lot of time with my son. So that was a huge thing, because I was taking care of him, I think, 2 days a week when I was building this business. So I would take him to work, or I'd take him to school. I would go to Starbucks and sit there and work on my iPad or work on my laptop. But having the ability to spend time with him has been huge for me, and our relationship's really great because of that. But it's about finding that balance and finding what works for you, and finding what works for for everyone in that household. So my wife leaves for work at 6:20 every morning.
Oh, wow.
So, and she drives to New Jersey. She's a teacher. So she gets home early, but she doesn't get that morning time, and I have that morning time. So now TV's not a good thing for kids, but I found a channel that he's up at 6. Well, sometimes he's up before that. And if he's up really early, we get to watch G.I. Joe.
Okay.
80s G.I. Joe, and then 80s Transformers. So I'm like,
It's
all
pretty
right,
cool. Yeah.
I get to watch this, and he's liking the same stuff that I liked as a kid. So that's kind of cool that we get to share in that experience.
Definitely.
I got asked last night, oh, you're watching the new Transformers. I'm like, no, 80s Transformers.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun being able
Definitely.
to have that. So I've got the structure, but I'm able to, because when he leaves for school, and my mother's been a huge help with all the childcare aspect. But because of that, I'm able to get my work done, and obviously I'm working late. I'm probably working harder than I was working practicing law, but it doesn't
But
feel
you're
that way.
happier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my levels of stress are so much lower.
How do you feel like it's impacted your relationship with your wife? Do you feel like it's better?
I do.
Yeah.
I really do. I have to actually say exercise is, I think, a huge part. After my
Yeah.
son was born, we weren't exercising as much, and there was a lot of tension. And then we started doing P90X, and I say P90X saved my marriage. I mean, we would be, I don't know how we did it, like 9 o'clock at night, like
Right.
doing push-ups in our basement.
Together.
But
impressive.
It,
Yeah.
it was a lot of time spent doing that. And so I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But really now this running thing has really kind of,
Yeah.
because she's so proud, and I'm proud of her, because she's always said, I'm not a runner, I'm not
Right.
a runner. But she's running 9.5-minute miles and doing 5 minutes. I'm like, you're kind of a runner. You
Yeah.
should sign up for a 5K. So
And then that's something else you could do together. So,
Exactly.
And maybe even your son will get into it.
I
Yeah.
keep trying to push him to do
Yeah.
it. There's Healthy Kids running series that I'm like, we should do this. He's like, nah, I don't want to do that.
I'm doing one coming up. It's called the Lemon Run with
I
Alex's
saw
Lemonade.
that. I saw that.
Yeah.
I haven't run that day, or I would have signed up for it.
Yeah, I mean, in another year, it's a nice like family event. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you get kids and you can run with your dog. I mean, it's a real fun family day.
My
You can
dog
sign
would-
up as a walker.
I
You
have
know,
a greyhound. My dog would win the race. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm considering taking my newest rescue, but we'll see how it'll go.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how that turns out. So tell me about what you think kind of your biggest success or failure has been. You know, you can pick one or the other
So
answer.
my biggest success, and when you sent me these questions, I was thinking, how should it be? And it's actually law.
Yeah.
In February, I had a trial, and it was a not guilty, and it was huge.
Yeah.
I've always wondered, did I leave law because I wasn't good at it, or did I step away from this practice because other people were better and never get to do that? But I hadn't done a trial in a long time, and part of my business when it ended was helping lawyers with their practice and presentation in the courtroom.
Yep.
So here was me putting all my skills and all my work into one little package, and knowing the courtroom and knowing the judge and knowing all the aspects of it, we were able to get a not guilty, which was huge. My client loved it, obviously, and it was great for me just personally saying that I could have, if I wanted to put my heart into this, I could be an amazing attorney.
Sure.
It's just, my heart's not in it. So it was kind of giving me the confidence to say, whatever I want to put my heart into, I can go forth and do and be successful in it.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point that you brought up too, which I've struggled with my own career. It's the difference between being good at something and actually enjoying it and being happy with it. Even though you're still somewhat practicing, you know, you kind of want it to be more of a sideline career as opposed to the main, you know, full-time gig. And you know, I think I struggle with that as well. I mean, even before I had some medical problems, you know, that idea of getting burned out, I was also doing litigation and thinking, is this all there is? You know, I felt pretty good at what I did in court, you know, but I wasn't really happy with it. But, you know, I mean, I think there's people out there that feel like it's too late for me, you know, I'm a certain age, or I have family obligations, or it's, you know, kind of pie in the sky to just think I need to be happy, you know, or are we really ever happy? Is there a job supposed to make us happy? All those things kind of go through your head. But I think the fact that you've landed in a place where, you know, you're doing several things and all of them are making you, you know, a better father, a better spouse, you know, you're happy, you're doing some interesting things. It's really wonderful, you know?
Great.
Yeah. So you mentioned, you know, all the reading, well, not reading, I guess the audio books while you're running. And I wanted to know if there's any book you want to share, either a favorite, you know, that you think might be good for people, or something that's really helped you.
I'm listening to Decisive by Chip and Dan Heath right
Okay.
now. I had the opportunity a couple years ago to see Dan Heath speak when the book came out, and a lot of people, it was at a human resources event.
Okay.
And a lot of people at the event said they had read the book. It was great for making decisions and how to really figure out what to do when there's a difficult decision to be made. And so I put it on the back burner, and fortunately, I've had this opportunity. I was in a waiting list to get this book still. I mean, and his words have always stuck in my mind, especially when was trying to figure out whether my business would work, because a lot of people will tell me, you have a great business idea. Well, it was a great idea. I still believe it was a great idea. Just
I think it was too.
practically, lawyers aren't going to tell other lawyers, hey, you need help. But listening to this book, even something you just mentioned, and I've even referenced the book a couple times today so far, even something you mentioned where how would we figure out, for ourselves, we're going to tell ourselves to take the more money or take that.
Right.
But what would we tell a friend in the same situation? And more likely, we're going to tell a friend, be happy.
Absolutely.
Enjoy what you're doing. So why can't we tell ourselves that? And so going through the process of the book on how to make decisions and how to take a step back and how to become less emotionally involved in what we're doing has, even though I've heard one of the authors speak, even though I knew that through my coaching, it's even listening to the book at this point, it's reinforcing it and reminding me of what I need to do in every step of the decision-making process that I take.
That's great. It sounds like a great book. I might have to read that one. So what about maybe a personal goal or a bucket list kind of idea? You know, we're nearing the end of 2015. Not related to your business, if you want to maybe share with us a personal goal for next year or just something you haven't done that you'd love to do next year.
Well, what I'm doing next year, yes. I said by the time I'm 35, I was going to run a half marathon.
Okay.
Well, I can't stop running, so I will be 33 and running a half marathon.
Okay.
So I think by the end of 2015 or 2016, I want to run a marathon.
Good.
And that's kind of where I'm at. So when I do my runs now, that's why I kind of moved on beyond a 5K, and I'm doing a 10K on November 8th, which is why I can't do the Alex's. But I run about 5 miles a day, so I was like, doing a 5K isn't going to work out for me because I'm never going to be the fastest, but I can complete that. So let's find the next challenge. And since I signed up for this half, I think now's the time to sign up for something else. So really completing that and completing more than one half, I think, would be filling out my bucket list.
I love the whole idea of the new challenge, the next challenge, because I'm all about that myself. So we're nearing the end, so I want to make sure that people know how to get in touch with you. So, you know, if you want to share with people your contact information, particularly for Spoonful, of course, and, you know, and let them know when it's coming out. I mean, I already know, but let the audience know.
All right, so Spoonful Magazine is coming out January 16th, 2016. It's our launch. I can be reached at, my phone number is 610-715-6939 or rob@spoonfulmag.com.
All right, and then lastly, we usually like to highlight a local networking event or two, or an organization that you feel has helped you with networking or that people should check out. Is there anything you could offer to our viewers?
Well, one thing is, since the holiday season's coming up, great time for networking, tons of events, plus it's who you know, and people who know you are going to like you better, or going to refer you to people. There's already that built in when you're at a networking event, a holiday event. But I think the best group would be Power Match. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Power Match. I wouldn't be doing most of the work that I'm doing with Spoonful now if it wasn't for Power Match. I've been a member of the group since 2012, and it's worked out well for me and paid back so much in the people I've met. And I mean, monetarily it's worked, but also who I've met and the connections I've made have been amazing.
Yeah, and Power Match, if you're not aware, it's kind of like what you would envision dating matchmaking to be, except think of it with business and networking instead, right?
Exactly.
So you're matched up with different people for smaller meetings, and there's also some really fun events, and Sarah Rosenberg is the founder, and she's a good friend of both of ours, and it's a wonderful organization to check out. So I highly encourage you to look at it for yourself, for your business, and you know, the whole idea behind it, which I think both of us also espouse, is just, you know, that networking is really about building those relationships and partners and not about a one-time sale or closing the deal. And I think Sarah is very much about that, which is why we've connected with her.
Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Joining us here today. And we look forward to seeing you for our next episode. Thanks a lot.